Hey guys, Jake from 80/20 Media here. Today we're continuing on with our 7.3 Powerstroke upgrade series and talking about exhaust upgrades for your F250, F350, and any other truck with a 7.3 Powerstroke in it. Now, when we look at performance modifications and upgrades for the 7.3 Powerstroke, the hands down best thing is going to be engine tuning. We went ahead and already covered a video on the 4 best modifications for the 7.3 Powerstroke, and we've done an intake specific video. So today we're going to be talking about the exhaust. The good thing about the 7.3 Powerstroke is it was made a long time ago before emissions were a thing, and so unless you have a California version of the 7.3 Powerstroke, you don't have any emissions equipment on it at all. It doesn't even have a catalytic converter. That gives us tons of options for exhaust upgrades and allows us to upgrade the full exhaust system and still remain emissions compliant. So first, let's go ahead and talk about some of the performance benefits and reasons to upgrade the exhaust system, and then we'll go ahead and talk about different things like 4-inch versus 5-inch exhaust systems, mufflers, no mufflers, as well as stainless steel, aluminized steel, and all of the other options that go into choosing the best exhaust system for your 7.3 Powerstroke. So first off, from a performance standpoint, after you've tuned your engine and you have an intake, you're bringing a lot more air into the engine, you're creating more combustion, which therefore means you have more exhaust gases that then have to get out of the vehicle. Now, the factory 7.3 exhaust is relatively efficient just because there's no emission systems on it, but it is small and it is therefore still restrictive, and there still is back pressure that's created within the exhaust system. What happens with that back pressure is it then acts as a force against the turbocharger, so it's going to slow down your turbocharger spool, it's going to decrease the efficiency of the turbocharger, and all of that is going to lead to your turbocharger running hotter, higher engine temperatures, and higher exhaust gas temperatures. And so the best thing that you can do, especially once you're tuned and once you have an intake, is add an exhaust system to reduce all of that back pressure within the exhaust, which is going to give you a number of performance benefits, predominantly from the reduction of back pressure within the exhaust. So by taking back pressure out of the equation in the exhaust, we're freeing up the efficiency of the turbocharger, allowing it to run cooler, allowing it to spool faster, and allowing it to operate more efficiently, which is going to open power gains as well as a number of other reliability related benefits. Depending on what type of tune you're running, you can see varying power gains from an exhaust system. On the 7.3 Powerstroke, you're probably looking anywhere from around 5 to 20 wheel horsepower. 5 wheel horsepower probably being if you're completely stock or running a very base low power tune, with 20 wheel horsepower being on the higher end if you're running an aggressive higher power tune and have a bunch of additional modifications as well. And then same goes for torque. You'll likely see around 10 wheel torque to 30 wheel torque performance benefits. So overall, we get some pretty decent power gains out of an exhaust system, but really the biggest benefit is going to come from the reduction in EGTs. Upgrading to even just a 4-inch exhaust system is going to lower your EGTs by about 150 to 200 degrees, and that's really where an exhaust system is worth it and beneficial. It's in lowering your engine temperatures, which is going to improve reliability. Overall, an exhaust system is, in my opinion, a must-have, especially if you're tuned. Even if you're not tuned, if you do a lot of towing, you'll notice some pretty big benefits in EGT reductions while towing. And so overall, it's just going to give you a cooler, healthier engine, which makes it absolutely worth it. All right, so now that we've talked about the performance benefits of an exhaust system, let's go ahead and talk about choosing an exhaust system. First of all, you're going to want a turbo back exhaust system. There's no emissions equipment in this exhaust, and so there's no reason to not go turbo back. You can get a downpipe back exhaust, but the downpipe sits the closest to the turbocharger, and so you're going to want to upgrade that as well. Now, looking at turbo back exhausts, we've got sizing options. You can get a 4-inch exhaust system or a 5-inch exhaust, which are going to be the two most popular on the market. A 5-inch exhaust system really isn't necessary unless you're running a larger turbocharger and running some pretty serious power levels. There's no downside to going with a 5-inch exhaust. It will have a little bit more back pressure reduction, option, but if you're running a factory turbocharger, there's really no need to go anything larger than a 4-inch exhaust. So a 4-inch exhaust, if you have a stock turbocharger, if you have an upgraded turbocharger, I'd go ahead and opt for the 5-inch exhaust. Now, second component of the exhaust that I'm going to talk about is the muffler. You can add a muffler or you can get one without a muffler, which essentially is a straight piped exhaust system. There are going to be some sound differences. The one without a muffler is going to be louder, not by a crazy margin, but it's also going to offer more performance benefits because the muffler does create a little bit of a restriction and create some back pressure. Generally speaking, I recommend avoiding a muffler just because it does hinder performance a little bit, and so you're not going to notice the same EGT reductions and the same power gains from an exhaust system with a muffler as you would without a muffler. You can still opt for a muffler if you want a quieter exhaust system. The other caveat here is that adding a muffler is going to add a little bit of extra cost to your exhaust system. So it's more expensive and it's not as great for performance, which for me goes ahead and knocks that option off of my list. And then that leaves our last consideration to the type of material that you want for your exhaust. So when it comes to metals, there's typically 3 different options that you have. You have 304 stainless steel, which is going to be the top of the line option. You have T409 stainless steel, which is going to be kind of the mid option. And then you have aluminized steel, which is going to be the most budget friendly option. Now, the only downside to an aluminized steel one is that it is not as rust resistant as a 304 stainless steel or a 409 stainless steel is. And so I, for example, have an aluminized steel exhaust on my 7.3, and I at one point did have to cut a section off of it and weld up a new piece of pipe because it had a hole in it and I wasn't passing emissions. But at the same time, the exhaust has been on this truck for about 10 years. It cost me about $50 to put a little new exhaust pipe in there. The aluminized steel is not really going to hold up quite as well if you live in climates that are prone to rust. But with that being said, you still shouldn't have any problem getting 5+ years of life out of an aluminized steel version. Stainless steel is great. It's going to stand up to the weather and the elements a lot better. The only 2 things are, 1, it is a good bit more expensive. You're going to be looking about an extra $150 to get a stainless steel option over an aluminized exhaust. And then the second thing, which is a big reason to not get it, is the stainless steel exhausts do create a lot more drone at highway speeds. In my opinion, I would stick with the budget-friendly option, get an aluminized steel one. You're going to have less drone at highway speeds, which you'll appreciate, and you're going to be saving at least $150. So overall, it makes it worth it in my opinion. So all this to say, my recommendation for an exhaust system for the 7.3 Powerstroke is the MBRP 4-inch turboback system in aluminized steel without a muffler. This is not only the most budget-friendly exhaust system, but it is going to offer you the best performance because it doesn't have a muffler, and even though it is aluminized steel, it still is going to hold up pretty well and last you long enough to be able to justify the cost and the cost savings you get from it over getting a steel option. We sell the 4-inch MBRP exhaust for $419. Head on over to Boosted Performance to check it out. Feel free to reach out to me in the Contact Us page on there if you have any question about performance upgrades for your 7.3. That covers everything here. Now we're going to go ahead and take you back to my truck right behind me. We'll go ahead and do a startup and just show you how loud it is and how it sounds at idle starting up in the driveway. And I do have the MBRP 4-inch turboback aluminum mufflerless exhaust system on it. All right guys, so there was a brief clip of the exhaust on startup. The engine is warm here. That wasn't a cold start since we did drive it around a little bit. The 7.3 Powerstrokes are such loud and noisy engines that when you're inside the vehicle, you hear a lot more engine noise than you do exhaust noise. The sound doesn't bother me at all on the highway or driving around just because you generally can't hear that much of it. And the inside of the cabin on these 7.3s is already really loud just because of the engines. Anyways, guys, that covers it for our video on exhaust upgrades for the 7.3 Powerstroke. Please click the like button, subscribe to our channel, and head over to Boosted Performance for all of your performance parts needs for your 7.3 Powerstroke as well.